Big game tomorrow. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Line CV, and welcome to the match preview for our upcoming game tomorrow. Europa League semi-final against Frankfurt. It gets serious. We're nearly there, we're close to crossing the line. But before I get into anything, smash that like button, help me get more than 1,000 likes for today's video. Don't forget to press the bell notification button either. And also remember, in the cards above are going to be recommended videos for you guys. So once you're done with the video and you want more Blue Line CV, click on that card above. Now, I'm going to be doing things differently for today's match preview. I'm going to start off by talking about the predicted lineup. After that, I'm going to be talking about and focusing a lot on our opponents, Frankfurt, their key players, how they like to play, LUKA JOVIC as well. And to end things, I'm going to be talking about all things tactics, trying to break down how I feel this game is going to go. Moving straight into the predicted lineup part for this video. As you can see, a pretty strong lineup. Mr. Europa League himself should be starting in this game against Frankfurt. He needs to, in my opinion, and I've been sharing a lot of the same beliefs that people have when it comes to him and Higuain. I've been speaking about Giroud's impacts now in quite a few videos. I do believe that he helps the team play better. I do believe that he helps the forwards as well. I think Willian is going to play because we need to stretch the play and keep some width. Hazard, of course. In midfield, I think Ruben should be playing this game as well. He's going to be very decisive for us. I'm going to be speaking about him in the tactical side later on. Hopefully Emerson's coming back. Frankfurt are a fast team out wide. I don't think we can afford to have Marcos Alonso playing against them. I think that Emerson needs to play in this game tomorrow. And it's going to be interesting to see Christensen versus Jovic. Potentially, I think that with Christensen's reading of the game, I think that it should be a quite interesting battle. This is going to be a massive opportunity for Christensen now. He needs to win back that trust from Sarri. I think that Sarri uses his lack of physicality against Christensen, maybe sometimes unfairly, in my personal opinion. But Christensen needs to show tomorrow why Sarri should be more confident using Christensen in big games. Now, moving straight into the second part, I'm going to be talking about Frankfurt. I'm going to break down the team and give you guys a good understanding of what to expect from our opponents. Now, we do have some previous history with Frankfurt. We've sent them 2 players on loan, Michael Hector and Lucas Piazon. Frankfurt have been a team on the rise. Niko Kovac, the current Bayern Munich manager, did fantastic work with them. And that work was continued by former Young Boys manager Adi Suter. And throughout the season, Frankfurt have been using predominantly a 3-4-1-2 system, and maybe in bigger games or in games where they need to have more men in midfield, they end up using a 3-1-4-2. Now, how do Frankfurt like to play in general? Frankfurt are a very direct team. They look to play down both flanks, and they're a team with a very aggressive counter-attacking style. Their game plan is to create overloads out wide through the late man runs from their wing backs. And because they like their wing backs to push forward and really be involved in the play, it means that they play with a very aggressive and speedy style. They look to create fast attacks through the use of width, as well as keeping the shape of the team compact through the use of their back three. Their back three is decent in the air, they're good on the ball, and they have to be because when Frankfurt start attacks, they expect their 3 central defenders to stretch the play and take up wide positions. And when you consider how Frankfurt play, the whole point of this style is to get the very best out of their magical triangle, Haller, Rebic and Jovic. Sebastian Haller is a mobile target man, Rebic is a shadow striker, and Jovic is that complete striker. As I said earlier, width is key in the Frankfurt system. They make sure that they keep their width at all times by having their wingbacks push forwards and pick up wide positions. And by doing this, this allows their mobile forwards to stretch the play, make runs out wide, make runs in behind, and hold up the ball in wide areas. And the great thing about their forwards is, as I was mentioning, because they're able to play all across the wide areas, they can hold up the ball and play passes into midfield players or Jovic making late man runs. They've been very effective at stretching teams' defensive lines, and it's no surprise that they play with a style of football that means getting the ball to the forwards as fast as possible. So far, they've scored a ton of goals combined, and because of that effectiveness at stretching defensive lines, it means that one man is allowed to profit a lot, and that man this season has been LUKA JOVIC. Jovic has been amazing this season. The numbers for someone his age are incredible, and for me, I'm hoping we sign the guy for next season. This guy can be a big forward, and it's about time that we spend the money on that position now, because we've been struggling to have a top class player up front. Now with Jovic, he plays off both Hele and Rebic. The space created by those forwards allows Jovic to be that focal point. And Jovic really is that focal point because he does take up a lot of central positions and he doesn't tend to drift wide. And the beauty of Jovic in this system means that a lot of times he's unmarked. When you see most of his goals come from late man runs inside the box, and he becomes an even more effective player because he's able to score with his left foot, right foot, with headers, shots outside the box, etc, etc. His ability to read the game, understand space, when to attack it, how to take advantage of space created through confusion from opposition teams' defensive lines. And I know I made that sound really confusing then, but I hope you get what I mean. Jovic is definitely going to be someone we have to pay a lot of attention to tomorrow night. Now, this is where I talk all things tactics. I'm going to focus on Frankfurt at first to give you an understanding of how I think they're going to approach the game against us tomorrow night. And I think that Frankfurt are going to set up using a 3-1-4-2 formation. They're going to approach the game more cautiously, but remember one thing, just because you're cautious doesn't mean that you're sitting back. This way, when they use this formation, they're able to pack the midfield, they're able to match us in midfield as well, and by doing that, hopefully it means that they're going to be able to reduce the spaces around here, and hopefully stop us from playing through them. Packing the midfield makes sense as well because Frankfurt like to use a man marking style. Now, speaking of their approach, I feel like they're going to look to disrupt our passing out from the back. Now that we have an indication of how they might line up against us tomorrow, let's talk about how they might press us as well. Now with Frankfurt, as I explained earlier, they're a team that are a bit gang with their style. And again, I was inspired by lots of their games in the Europa League this season. And because of that, I'm expecting Jovic and Rebic to not drift wide. They're going to play close, they're going to keep their positions centrally. And by doing that, Frankfurt will be hoping that when they do win any potential turnovers, with both Jovic and Rebic going man v man against our defenders, keeping up central positions, there'll be a much stronger focal point, and hopefully their combinational play will help them try and create an opportunity. Now, I'm going to be talking about Frankfurt's wingbacks, Da Costa and Kostic. They've had very impressive seasons. In particular, Kostic, now originally he used to start off as a winger, but now he's being used as a wingback. It's really his best position. Kostic is a very fast, pacey player, and the fact that he's able to receive the ball from deeper positions gives him much more freedom when it comes to obviously running down the flanks and getting up to full speeds. They're two very aggressive wingbacks that will look to get straight to the byline, get in that final third. They'll start their runs from deep and look to get in behind our fullbacks. But really, it's their ability to hold their positions out wide, as well as producing a lot of very interesting opportunities inside the box that allows their focal points up front to have the space and freedom to move around when they want. The beautiful thing about both of these wingbacks is that depending on where the ball is, so for example, if the ball was down the left hand side, Costa has the confidence to become an option inside the box and will look to push forward if he has to. It's the same thing for Kostic as well. He's also someone that will look to push inside the box if the opportunity arises. Moving on to their midfield, and one of the most underrated players at Frankfurt right now is their club legend, the Japanese international Hasaibi. Now, he's a very intelligent player. He understands where to fill positions. He's got a fantastic passing range, which Frankfurt really utilise in all their attacks. He's going to act as that sitting midfield player, allowing guys like Gavinic and Roda to break the lines, and I'm assuming with their movement they're going to look to attack the spaces between the half spaces to try and obviously help their wingbacks have the license to push forwards, as well as being options in case they need to defend against Chelsea counterattacks. Now with Hasaibi, is a very interesting player. You can see him looking to make very long direct balls into the wide areas, or even straight to the forward as well. complete breaking the opposition press. Asabi is naturally a defender, so it really sums up his technical prowess that the manager feels confident using him in that sitting midfield role. But if there are times where Frankfurt need to play out from the back, they're very adept. Asabi will drop back into position, and that way the Frankfurt defence will then stretch. Someone like Abrahams will take up a fullback position, same thing as Ndika, and that way they will look to use Asabi's ball playing ability where he have that space and freedom to pick out any pass he wants. In that sense, he's kind of like their David Luiz. There'll be times where he might run with the ball, bring it forward, and look to play off passes. There's also going to be times where he'll look to just keep his position and pick up an option from very deep. But in this preview, I'm going to be talking about how we can beat them and how we should approach the game against them. Now, one immediate thing for me is the fact that their French target man, Sébastien Haller, isn't playing. That means that they're going to lose out on his aerial threat. He's the perfect forward for them to hit direct balls to, so he can hold up the ball and bring others into play. This could have been key for them, as I imagine that there will be times during the game tomorrow where they are going to struggle to play out from the back due to the wide positions of their wing backs. Sometimes they don't take up good positions to be outlets for a pass, and if Costa or Kostic are too far up the pitch and we're able to press them down to one side, expect them to use a lot of long balls to play out. And because Haller isn't the guy to fight off a Christensen or a David Luiz, I feel like aerially we could have that advantage against Frankfurt tomorrow evening. Now, of course, whenever you use a wing-back system, for me personally, I've always felt like if you stop that team's wing-backs from getting forward, you kind of have an advantage in the game. I've seen it time and time again when Conte was our manager and we weren't able to get our wing-backs further forward in the final third. It really affected what we did in midfield, and it's no surprise why I feel like we are going to be using Asabi in a sitting midfield role, and that really needs to be our focus for tomorrow. We need to prevent them from dominating the flanks 100%, and there's quite a few ways in which we can do that. One thing we need to do is force their wing-backs back to make a back five. Hopefully Gavinic will move back as well, Roda, and I can imagine Rebic and Jovic should be quite near Jorginho because, of course, they want to try and, win the ball off him and try to start counter-attacks from that situation. Now, if we're able to do this by, pushing up, making them feel very compact, making them play how we want them to, controlling the game in their own half, I feel like this is where we can have a lot of fun. And this is where we can start to control the game and take advantage. Now, Frankfurt won't make this as easy for us. I can really imagine Roda and Gavinic to make those runs out wide to be the passing outlet. So hopefully their wing-backs have that option to play a 1-2 with and get down the lines. The question is though, how often and how much will Gavinic and Roda be expected to make those runs out wide? I mean, they're not the fastest players. They can be quite slow. So this could be a massive strain on them, and as time goes on, as it gets closer to the 90 minutes, they'll get more tired, and I'm hoping that we're going to have a lot more fun between the lines for guys like Ruben and Hazard to operate and do their thing. Remember, Frankfurt are a very aggressive and fast team, so I do feel like if we can slow down the game, really affect their build-up, we should be able to have that advantage with our possession game. As you can see on screen, I think the focus tomorrow has to be on intelligent positional sense, and this is why I want to see Willian playing. I feel like if you're going to be coming up against very aggressive wing backs, you have to keep that width and not allow them to have all the space in behind. I think this way, the right hand side can play a much more supportive role, because I do think that Kostic is a much better forward player. Compared to Da Costa, he's created so many opportunities for them. And by having Willian searching out wide, holding this position, not moving infield like Pedro does, this means that Aspie then won't be forced to have to cover him behind him and become isolated. It means he can sit back a bit, meaning that if they do beat our press, Kostic is on the ball, he will have Azpilicueta to slow him down that left hand side. Now in theory, I am feeling optimistic. I do think that we will be able to find some joy between the lines. I think that with this team in particular, a lot of these guys are much more suited at beating a press, and when you beat the press, when you have the ability to keep the ball as well and make things happen, this is where things become exciting. And if you cast your minds back to what Emerson was talking about, where he feels as if he has that understanding and link with Ruben and Hazard, that's really going to strengthen how we beat through the press. Now, the thing is, when I was talking earlier about how I think that Frankfurt are going to be looking to press us and harry our defenders, I really feel like this is where Ruben's going to be that advantage for us. Of course, they are going to use a man marking style. Once they close us down one half of the pitch, let's say for example, all the players down this side, Christensen, Luiz, let me move everyone down to the right hand side to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. Yep, as you can see, Jovic here, Luiz there. One of these guys is going to be on Jorginho 100%. This is where I feel Ruben can be key for us. I feel as if Kante, if he's smart, if he drops deeper to take his man out the game, this should leave Ruben unopposed. I don't know if Hasaibi has that pace really pushed forward and closed down, and the risky thing is if you do that, you leave that massive gap between the lines, which Frankfurt aren't trying to do. We know that Ruben can hold off a man with his strength, his dribbling ability, how he uses the ball as well. And if we're able to have him as the free man, where we're able to push our attacks through him, he then has the license to hopefully carry the ball with him. Emerson supporting the play. Hazard moving infield, because when Ruben's on the ball, Hazard has that license and confidence to move infield where he can hopefully link up with Giroud. Ruben moves to that left hand side to cover Hazard's position. Emerson has that support and backup. And this way you're able to force their wing backs back and make sure that they have a back five. There's another strategy that we can do to force their wing backs deeper, and that comes through whether Willian would push in fields, Hazard doing the same thing as well. Obviously the fullbacks support the play because that's how it works in the Sarri system. That way we can use the runs out wide by Ruben and by Kante in these positions to be the late man runs that help drag their defensive position, that would force potentially their wide centre backs to have to deal with the midfield players out here, hopefully giving us the opportunities between the lines where we can see our guys do their thing. Now, just to wrap things up, all of this means absolutely nothing if our intensity isn't going to be on point. Too often the lack of mentality, and for me mentality is involved complacency, it's involved lack of concentration, it's involved a lack of positional awareness and sense on top of that as well. And if we start off by getting complacent, we'll be in for a very hard game because Frankfurt are an aggressive team. They're going to look to press us man for man, as I've been saying before. If we allow them to start with that intensity, we could find ourselves in trouble very quickly because they're a team that like to create fast attacks. But as long as we're using a strong press resistant team, I do feel a bit optimistic because I do feel like we have the personality to overcome that challenge. And I think with that press resistance on top of that as well, I feel as if that we'll be able to impose our game on Frankfurt for tomorrow. Now, I'm going to be going for an ambitious 2-0 win against them. I think that it is going to be an entertaining game. It's going to be a fast game on top of that as well. Let's hope our mentality is on point. But you guys, I'm going to keep things moving. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC. This is Blue Line CV. Signing out.